I'm Jessica, 34 years old, and I thought that night was going to be perfect. My husband Mark and I were taking our two kids, Emma who's 8 and Sophie who's 5, to celebrate my parents' 35th wedding anniversary at the fanciest restaurant in town. We'd been looking forward to this for weeks. My parents, Robert and Linda, decided to throw this big celebration at Marcel's, which is seriously the most expensive place in the city. My younger sister Hannah is 31, and she's always been the golden child in our family. She's got this way of charming everyone around her, while I've always been the responsible one trying to keep everyone happy. But tonight was supposed to be about celebrating Mom and Dad, so I pushed those old feelings aside. The girls had been working on their anniversary gifts for weeks. Emma spent hours on this beautiful watercolor painting with 35 years of love written in her careful handwriting. Sophie made these adorable clay figurines of Grandma and Grandpa using her craft kit. I'd called Mom twice to confirm we were coming. Both times she seemed happy to hear from us and asked about the kids. Everything felt normal and excited. We arrived at Marcel's exactly on time at 7 o'clock. The place was even more impressive than I'd imagined: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and this hushed atmosphere that screamed expensive. The girls were wide-eyed, taking in all the fancy decorations and whispering about how pretty everything looked. That's when our evening took a turn. As soon as we walked through the front doors, this stern woman in a black suit approached us. "Excuse me," she said, looking directly at Emma and Sophie like they were some kind of problem. "I'm sorry, but children are not permitted at this event. This is an adults-only celebration." My hand started shaking. There must be some mistake. "We're here for the Roberts' anniversary party. I'm their daughter Jessica." I fumbled in my purse for the invitation and shoved it at her. "Look, there's nothing anywhere on here about it being adults only." The woman barely glanced at the invitation. "I understand your confusion, but the party organizers specifically requested no children be admitted to the event." The party organizers are my parents. I could hear my voice getting louder and people starting to stare, but I didn't care. "They invited us, they know we have kids." That's when I heard Hannah's voice behind me. "Jess, what's the problem here?" I spun around to see my sister walking over, looking absolutely stunning in this expensive black dress that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. She had this calm expression on her face like nothing was wrong. "Hannah, thank God you're here. There's some kind of mix-up. They're saying kids aren't allowed, but Mom and Dad invited us." Hannah looked at the girls, then back at me with this little smile. "Oh Jess, this party really is adults only. I thought you knew that." The words hit me like a slap. "What do you mean you thought I knew? Nobody told me anything about that." "Well," Hannah shrugged, "I guess I just assumed you wouldn't come tonight anyway. You never really liked big parties and fancy events." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you kidding me right now? I've been planning this for weeks." I confirmed with Mom twice. The girls made gifts for Grandma and Grandpa. Hannah glanced around the restaurant entrance and gestured toward the dining room. "Look for yourself, Jess. Do you see any other kids here?" Everyone left their children with babysitters or nannies. I looked where she was pointing and my heart sank. Through the glass doors, I could see the party in full swing. Tables full of adults in fancy clothes, champagne glasses, and not a single child in sight. In the center of it all, I spotted my parents at the head table. Dad saw me looking and gave a little wave, but neither of them got up or came over to see what was happening. "This is unbelievable," I said, my voice cracking. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Hannah just shrugged again. "Look, it's not that big a deal. Mark can just take the kids home and be their babysitter for the night. Then you can come join the party by yourself. Problem solved." I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. "Hannah, we drove here as a family. The girls have been excited about this for weeks." "Yeah, about that," Hannah said, turning to look at Emma and Sophie who were standing there holding their gifts and looking confused. "Girls, I'm sorry but nobody really needs those little drawings and craft projects tonight. This is a party for adults with real, expensive gifts. You can just throw those things in the trash on your way out." Sophie's face crumpled and she started crying. pressing her clay figurines against her chest. Emma's eyes filled with tears too, but she was trying to be brave for her little sister. That's when something inside me snapped. I looked one more time toward the dining room where my parents were still sitting at their table, not even bothering to come see what was happening with their daughter and grandchildren. Then I looked at my two little girls, who were now both crying and clinging to their handmade gifts that my sister had just called trash. You know what, Hannah? I understand perfectly now. I took each of my daughters by the hand. Come on, girls, we're going home. Mark put his arm around my shoulders as we walked toward the exit. Are you okay? He whispered. No, I said, my voice shaking with anger, but I will be. We walked out of Marcel's together, leaving the fancy anniversary party behind. The girls were still sniffling, but they held on to their gifts tight. Whatever was happening with my family, I knew one thing for sure: my kids didn't deserve to be treated like that by anyone, especially not by their own aunt. The car ride home was quiet except for the girls' occasional sniffles from the back seat. Mark kept glancing at me while he drove, probably worried I was going to completely lose it. I was holding it together, but just barely. My hands were shaking and I could feel this rage building up inside me like a volcano about to explode. Mommy, why didn't Aunt Hannah like our presents? Sophie asked in this tiny voice that broke my heart. I turned around to look at my daughters. Emma was staring out the window trying to act grown up, but I could see tears still rolling down her cheeks. Sophie was clutching her clay figurines so tight her knuckles were white. Your presents are beautiful, sweetheart, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. Aunt Hannah was just being mean, and that's not okay. But she said they were ugly and we should throw them away, Sophie continued, her bottom lip trembling. Mark caught my eye in the rearview mirror and I could see he was furious too. You know what, girls? When we get home, we're going to hang Emma's painting right in the living room where everyone can see it. And Sophie's figurines are going on the fireplace mantel. Really? Sophie perked up a little. Absolutely, I said, and you know what? Let's stop and get pizza on the way home. We'll have our own celebration. We ended up at Tony's Pizza, this little family place we go to sometimes. The girls were starting to feel better by the time we got our food, especially when Tony himself came over to ask about Emma's painting. She proudly showed it to him and he made this big fuss about how talented she was. Sophie showed off her clay figurines too, and Tony said they were the best grandparent sculptures he'd ever seen. When we got home, Mark helped me hang Emma's painting right above the couch in our living room. Sophie carefully arranged her clay figurines on the fireplace mantel, stepping back to admire them like they were priceless art pieces. After we got the girls ready for bed and tucked them in, Mark and I finally had a chance to talk. We sat on the couch, and I just stared at Emma's painting hanging on the wall. I can't believe what happened tonight, Mark said quietly. That's when I completely lost it. All the anger I'd been holding back for the girls' sake came pouring out. They humiliated our children, Mark. My own sister told our daughters their gifts were trash. And my parents just sat there and watched it all happen. They didn't even try to come over and fix things. Mark pulled me close as I started crying angry tears. I know, Jess, it was awful. I've spent my whole life trying to make them happy. I send them money every month, I remember every birthday, I include them in everything. And this is how they treat my kids? What do you want to do about it? I pulled back and looked at him. I'm done, Mark. I'm done trying to win their approval. They made their choice tonight when they chose to hurt Emma and Sophie. I got up and went to our home office, pulling out the folder where I keep important documents. Mark followed me, watching as I dug through papers. What are you looking for? The deed to the lake house. Mark's eyes widened. He knew exactly what I was thinking. We'd bought that little house by the lake about a year ago, but we'd kept it completely secret from everyone. It was going to be our surprise anniversary gift for my parents. The house isn't huge, just 3 bedrooms, but it's absolutely perfect. It sits right on the shore of this beautiful lake, and it even has its own little marina. My dad would have loved it because he's always been crazy about fishing. We'd actually rented that same house several times over the years for weekend getaways with my parents, and Dad always said it was his dream house. Mark and I had spent the entire past year renovating it. We redid the kitchen, updated the bathrooms, and made it into this cozy little retreat. The plan was to give them the keys tonight after dinner and see the looks on their faces when they realized their dream house was now theirs. I went to my laptop and logged into Facebook. My hands were still shaking as I uploaded the photos we'd taken of the house after we finished the renovation. The kitchen with its new granite counters, the master bedroom with the lake view, the deck where you can sit and watch the sunset over the water. Then I started typing. This beautiful lake house could have been my parents' 35th anniversary gift tonight. My husband and I spent a year renovating it specifically for them, knowing how much my dad loves to fish and how they've always dreamed of a place like this. Unfortunately, they chose to humiliate my children and me at their anniversary dinner instead. When my 5-year-old and 8-year-old daughters were told their handmade gifts were trash and should be thrown away, and when my own family made my children cry, they lost the right to this gift. Some things are more important than keeping peace in the family. My children will always come first. I added another paragraph. From now on, there will be no more monthly financial help, no more expensive birthday gifts, and no more bending over backward to make people happy who clearly don't respect me or my family. My daughter's tears tonight showed me exactly where I stand in this family, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Mark read over my shoulder, "Jess, once you post this, there's no taking it back." Good, they need to understand that actions have consequences. I hit the publish button and immediately turned off my phone. I didn't want to see the comments or responses. I just wanted to go to bed and forget this whole nightmare of an evening. "Come on," Mark said, taking my hand, "let's get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." As we got ready for bed, I felt this weird mix of anger and relief. I was furious about what happened to my kids, but there was also this sense of freedom, like I'd finally stopped pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. For a few seconds I forgot what happened, then it all came flooding back: the restaurant, Hannah's cruel words, my parents just sitting there doing nothing. I grabbed my phone and turned it on for the first time since posting on Facebook. 37 missed calls, dozens of text messages. My voicemail was completely full. The first message was from my mom, and her voice was all shaky and desperate. "Jessica, honey, please call me back. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. We were just joking around last night. You know how your sister gets sometimes. Please don't be mad at us." The next one was from Hannah. "Jess, you left way too fast last night. We didn't have time to catch up with you and explain what was really going on. Mom and Dad are really upset. Can you please call me back?" Then my dad's voice, trying to sound calm, but I could hear the anger underneath. "Jessica, I saw what you posted online. This is getting out of hand. We need to talk about this like adults. Call me back." I deleted every single message without listening to the rest. Then I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic monthly transfer of $500 to my parents' account. Done. Just like that, no more financial help from me. While I was scrolling through my phone, I remembered that Hannah had asked me for money just a few weeks ago. She wanted to take some graphic design courses and needed $2,000 for tuition. I'd been planning to give it to her as an early birthday present. Well, not anymore. I spent the rest of the morning ignoring my family's attempts to contact me. Every time my phone rang, I just let it go to voicemail. By afternoon, Mark and I decided to take the girls to the park to get out of the house. We needed some normal family time after the disaster of the night before. We were just getting back when I saw my parents' car in our driveway. "Oh hell no," I muttered under my breath. "Mark saw them too. Do you want me to tell them to leave?" "No, I'll handle this." My parents were standing on our front porch looking like lost puppies. Mom was holding this huge cake box, and Dad was just standing there with his hands in his pockets. They both looked older somehow, smaller than I remembered. "Jessica." Mom rushed toward me as soon as she saw us. Oh honey, we brought this cake for the girls. We know they worked so hard on those beautiful gifts for us. I stopped walking and crossed my arms. Really? Because yesterday Hannah told them their gifts belonged in the trash. Dad stepped forward. Jessica, there's no need for all of us to be upset over such a small thing. We saw your post online. Everyone knows about the house now. Maybe we should all just calm down and start over. Start over? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think this is just a small thing? Well, Mom said, trying to smile, why don't we all go inside and have some cake? Then maybe this weekend we can drive out to the country and see our new house. That's when I completely lost it. Your house? It's not your house anymore. It's my house. Mark and I bought it, we renovated it, and we were going to give it to you. But you showed your true colors yesterday when you let Hannah make my children cry. Dad's face turned bright red. Jessica, you're being ridiculous. That house would be perfect for family gatherings. I've always wanted to fish in that lake. Yeah, well now my husband fishes there. And you know what? It's a great place for our kids to play and swim. Thanks for helping me realize we should keep it for ourselves. Mom started crying right there on my porch. Please, Jessica, we can work this out, we're family. Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated my daughters yesterday. I walked past them to unlock my front door. You need to leave now. I went inside and slammed the door behind me. Through the window, I watched them stand there for a few more minutes before finally getting in their car and driving away. The cake box was still sitting on my porch. But they didn't give up. Over the next few days, the calls and messages kept coming. They even got other relatives involved. My Aunt Carol, who I barely talked to maybe twice a year, showed up at my house on Wednesday. Jessica, I'm worried about you, she said when I opened the door. Your parents are beside themselves. Your mother has been crying nonstop, and your father's blood pressure is through the roof. He almost had a heart attack yesterday. That's not my problem anymore, Carol. But they're getting older, honey. They have health issues. Maybe you should just let this go and forgive them. Let it go? They humiliated my children. Would you let someone make your kids cry and then just pretend it never happened? Carol shifted uncomfortably. Well, no, but then you understand why I can't just let this go. My parents made their choice when they decided Hannah's feelings were more important than their grandchildren's. After Carol left, Hannah started texting me constantly. Every message was about how I was destroying the family, how Mom was crying all the time, how Dad's health was getting worse because of the stress I was causing. The final straw came when Mark and I decided we needed to get away from all the drama. We packed up the kids and drove out to the lake house for a long weekend. It was supposed to be peaceful, just our family enjoying the place we'd worked so hard to fix up. We'd been there for 2 days when my parents showed up Saturday night around 11 o'clock. The girls were already asleep when we heard car doors slamming and loud voices outside. Jessica, we know you're in there, open this door right now. Emma and Sophie woke up scared, asking what was happening. I was furious that my parents had tracked us down and were now scaring my children at our own house. I opened the door but didn't let them in. What the hell are you doing here? You need to leave right now or I'm calling the police. Jessica, don't be so cruel, Dad said, we just want to work things out. If you don't stop harassing my family, I will call the police and then I'll sue you for harassment. Do you understand me? They finally left, but it took another hour to calm the girls down and get them back to sleep. That night, lying in bed listening to the lake water lapping against the shore, I knew there was no going back. My parents had crossed every line, and I was done with all of them. After the incident at the lake house, things finally started to quiet down. My parents and Hannah seemed to realize I was serious about cutting contact, and the constant calls and messages gradually stopped. It took about 3 months, but eventually my phone wasn't ringing every day with someone trying to guilt me into forgiving them. I won't lie, there were moments when I almost wavered. Sometimes I'd see a photo on social media of a family gathering and feel this pang of loneliness. But then I'd remember Sophie's tears when Hannah told her to throw away her clay figurines, and my resolve would come right back. Mark was incredibly supportive through everything. He never once suggested I should just make peace with my family to end the drama. Instead, he helped me focus on the people who actually mattered, our kids and the family members who treated us with respect. The girls adjusted better than I expected. They asked about Grandma and Grandpa for a while, but kids are resilient. When we explained that sometimes adults make bad choices and we can't be around people who are mean to us, they seemed to understand. Emma, being older, got it more quickly, but even Sophie stopped asking when we were going to see them again. My parents kept trying different tactics to get back into our lives. They started sending packages to the house, toys for the girls, flowers for me, even a fishing rod for Mark. I sent every single package back unopened with return to sender written on them. I wasn't going to let them buy their way back into our good graces. Through mutual relatives, I heard that my parents were doing fine financially. They weren't serious struggling without my monthly payments, which honestly made me feel a little foolish for sending them money for so long. They'd been perfectly capable of taking care of themselves, they just enjoyed having their successful daughter support them. Hannah also seemed to be managing without the money she'd asked for. I heard through the grapevine that she'd found a different way to pay for her design courses. Good for her. Maybe learning to solve her own problems would be good for her character. The big test came about 6 months after the anniversary disaster. I received an email from Hannah with the subject line, "My wedding invitation." For a moment, my heart skipped a beat. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and part of me had always imagined being there for her wedding day. The email was different from her usual guilt trip messages. She wrote that she was getting married in 2 months and wanted Mark, me, and the girls to come to the ceremony. She specifically said she wasn't asking for money or gifts, just our presence. She even apologized for what happened at the anniversary dinner and said she hoped we could put it behind us. I stared at that email for a long time. Mark found me at the computer an hour later, still reading it over and over. "What do you think?" he asked after I showed him. "I think it's a trap. They're hoping if I show up to the wedding, everything will magically go back to normal. Like nothing ever happened. Maybe, or maybe she really does want you there." I closed the laptop without responding. A few days later, I deleted the email without replying. I wasn't ready to let them back into our lives, and I definitely wasn't going to pretend that one apology erased months of harassment and the way they'd treated my children. The unexpected benefit of cutting ties with my family was how much closer we became with Mark's parents. I'd always liked them, but I'd been so focused on trying to win my own parents' approval that I hadn't invested much time in that relationship. Mark's mom, Susan, and his dad, Jim, are genuinely kind people. When they found out what happened, they were horrified. Susan actually said she couldn't imagine treating her grandchildren that way, and Jim told Mark he was proud of him for standing by his wife and kids. We started inviting them to the lake house regularly. Jim loves fishing almost as much as my dad did, and Susan enjoys helping the girls with art projects and baking. The house that was supposed to be a gift for my parents became this wonderful gathering place for Mark's family instead. Last month, we had Susan and Jim up for a long weekend, along with Mark's brother and his family. The house was full of laughter and kids running around, and I realized this was what family was supposed to feel like. No walking on eggshells, no worrying about saying the wrong thing, just people who genuinely enjoyed being together. Watching Jim teach Emma how to cast a fishing line, and seeing Susan patiently help Sophie make a birdhouse, I felt this deep sense of contentment. These were the grandparents my kids deserved, people who built them up instead of tearing them down. Do I miss my parents and sisters sometimes? Of course I do. They were a huge part of my life for 34 years. There are moments when something funny happens and I instinctively want to call my mom, or when the girls do something cute and I think about how my dad would have reacted. But then I remember that the people I'm missing are the versions of them I created in my head, the loving, supportive family I always wanted them to be. The reality is that they showed me exactly who they were that night at Marcel's, and I finally stopped making excuses for them. Will I ever reconcile with them? Maybe someday, in the distant future. I'm not completely closed off to the possibility. But it would have to be on my terms, with genuine apologies and real changes in how they treat my family. They'd have to prove they understand why what they did was wrong, not just say sorry to get me to come back.